Okay, so I'm trying out like a new format. It's called Nerd Out. The basic premise is exactly what it sounds like. It's a little bit less scripted than my normal videos, and it's just me nerding out about stuff that I think is really cool and that I want, but that I can't necessarily afford right now. So for the first episode, I want to talk about this new camera that I want, but let's get a little bit of the background behind why exactly I'm so excited about this. About a year ago, I decided to quit my job and pursue being a YouTuber full time, and it was quite the journey. At some point, I might make a video on it, but for now, just know I'm blessed enough to actually make that work and pay the bills. So when I first started full-time on YouTube, I was just using my iPhone to film. I had an iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I used like a non-native camera app that allows you to change all your camera settings manually, like ISO and aperture and shutter speed and things like that. So that was really my first introduction to all sorts of things like color grading, composition, how to just work a camera in general. And for the first few videos on the channel, it is exactly what I needed. It wasn't complicated, but it was just enough of like a real camera experience to be something I could grow into. And on top of it, when you record with the right settings, you really can get pretty awesome footage off the iPhone, provided the lighting's okay. Then I ended up upgrading to my current camera setup, which is the Sony A6700. And this thing has basically a way larger sensor than the iPhone, and you can buy, specific lenses for it. If you don't know anything about cameras, it is more expensive, but the image is going to come out looking better. And look, for the past almost year, I've been basically growing into this camera. I learned all sorts of things just about cinematography in general, what filters that I should buy, what's a mistake to purchase, what's important, and basically everything in between. Now, the main thing about my camera is it's great, but it's what's called an APS-C sensor, which means that while it's way bigger than the iPhone's sensor, it's smaller than kind of a normal, what they call full frame sensor. And the reason why sensor size is important is basically the larger your sensor is, the more light that it lets in, and in theory, the higher quality image that you can get. That's totally oversimplifying stuff, but if you already know about cameras, you don't need me to explain that anyways. So I've been in the background searching for like what full frame camera can I get, and Sony recently just released what's called the FX5. Now the thing is, my current camera, you can take pictures and record video on it, which is great. I barely ever have to take pictures for my YouTube channel, so this new Sony FX5 only takes video, so there's no still capability, but for me, that's totally fine, to be honest. But there's a bunch of features that I am like super stoked about, and yeah, let me walk you through a couple of them real quick. So first of all, there's something called Open Gate, and it basically means that instead of just recording in your normal 16:9 format, it'll take in all of the light that the sensor actually sees, so you get a larger image from your camera, and then in post, like in editing, you can basically adjust that to whatever aspect ratio that you need. So you can have a 4K normal image, you can have vertical content, and you never have to worry about it quite as much. Just the ability in post to be able to reframe my shot without losing any resolution is like really cool and very exciting. And of course, for any shorts that I want to do in the future, it would just be great, because at that point, the raw footage, you can do vertical or horizontal content, which is really awesome for someone who does what I do. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but just know it's really cool. Okay, the next thing that is super cool is what's called a triple base ISO on this camera. So if you don't know what that means, basically it just means that in low light, your camera is going to perform better. So one of the things I've noticed with my current camera, and certainly the iPhone setup, is that in some low light scenarios, you kind of lose some detail, and it'll introduce what's called visual noise, which you can kind of see on screen right here. Doesn't look super great. Basically, a nicer camera with a full frame sensor will perform even better since it's letting in more light. But on top of being a full frame sensor, this new camera has 3 base ISOs, which all you need to know about that is it's kind of another buff to make it even better in low light. So the difference between my current camera even and then the FX5, when I'm shooting like a desk setup shot at night or something like that, will be like really massive, and I think it's super cool. There's a couple of other features too that are cool about the camera, like for example, has built-in cooling. And now that's not unique to this camera in particular, like any FX Sony camera is going to have like an internal cooling solution, but it's nice that it has it for long filming, and yeah, a bunch of other stuff. But here's the problem: just for the camera body, it's like $5,000. Okay, I don't have $5,000 to just drop on a new camera, especially when the one that I have already works really well. That doesn't even include the lenses that I would get, because you're not going to just put cheap lenses on this camera, or else there's no point in buying a really nice camera body. So what I would want to do is buy some Sony G Master lenses, which is kind of their higher end consumer line. Something like the f2 28 to 70 millimeter. I mean, it's got prime level aperture, it's got excellent bokeh and all that different stuff, but all in the convenience of a zoom lens. Basically, all you need to know is that's a really, really cool, nice lens. And then there's rumored lenses like the f2 16 to 28 millimeter G Master, and that would pair perfectly with the 28 to 70, same aperture. It fills in the wide angle gap that I'm going to be missing. Even like for a third lens, have something like a 90 millimeter prime just for a macro shot if I want to get a close up of a keyboard or anything like that. That doesn't even account for the fact, I am pretty sure, although correct me if I'm wrong, that they developed a new battery for the FX5, which sucks because that means that all of the batteries that I have aren't compatible with the new camera, so you have to buy new batteries. All those fancy new lenses have way larger filter thread sizes, which means you have to buy a whole bunch of larger and therefore way more expensive filters. My content would look better. I would say it might even look like 20% more, cinematic on particular shots. And you might say like, okay, well, what's the point of this video? Because like, I don't have the camera, I'm just talking about features that you can look up online. I don't know, I just want to have a series where I can just talk with you guys, have it be a little bit unscripted, and just tell you like, hey, this is cool stuff that I want. Maybe since I am a creator, at some point I'll be able to get a sponsor or two for this series and get cool stuff, and maybe get you guys a discount code or whatever. I mean, who knows where it could go. So yeah, I know this video is a bit of a ramble. That's sort of the vibe I'm going for with this sort of stuff, but I just want to create a space where we as a community can just talk about cool stuff. So yeah, anyways, this video is getting way too long. I'm not even saying anything. So normal content to resume soon.